Morning, good afternoon, everyone. I trust you're doing well and I trust your day has been good. So, welcome to this session, and good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, depending on the location that you are at this point in time. I am Ubon Kanta, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the very first Growth Age series webinar titled Customer Expectations, the Catalyst for Profitability and Market Leadership. It is my pleasure to be your host today, especially as one who has had the privilege of leading and managing customer experience transformation across diverse sectors like the finance, fintech, health, and tech for over 17 years. Throughout my journey, I have firsthand experience on how powerful customer experience transformation can be driving business growth, increasing profitability, and market leadership. But what has really stood out for me is a critical role customer expectation plays when businesses align with their customer needs and anticipate their expectations. They unlock untapped potential for both innovation and profitability. And this brings us to today's um, session. In a world where change is the only constant, businesses must continuously evolve. And I believe that all risk being left behind. This is the core philosophy that Growth Age series, right, rest on. Now, why are we having this session today? The Growth Edge series is where innovation, leadership, growth, and customer alignment meets together. They converge. Our mission is to bring together some of the brightest minds and forward-thinking leaders like you here today to explore how business can thrive at the intersection of innovation, leadership, and customer alignment. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure today to introduce our distinguished speaker, the one and only Lynn Hunsaker. Wow, Lynn, it's so good to see you here today. So good to have you on board.
It's my pleasure to join you today. Really excited about this topic.
Yeah, by the way, just let me let our audience know. Lynn Hunsaker is a globally recognized thought leader in customer experience, right? With an impressive career that spans customer experience, strategic planning, quality, and marketing roles at top organizations like Applied Materials and Sonoco in the United States of America. And also her expertise has had profound impact in the customer experience community. Why am I saying that? Lynn today, right, is an international board member of the Customer Experience Professional Association. She has shaped the way businesses approach transformation globally. She's taught 25 graduate and undergraduate courses at prestigious institutions like the UC Berkeley and St. Joe's State University. Wow. And she was the first to receive the CXPS authorized training status for online certification exams. I know those that have taken CXPA or aspiring to take CXPA, this is the person you have to reach out to. You know, Lynn's contribution to the field are vast. She's authored 3 handbooks on customer experience, co-authored the first global study on B2B customer experience practices, and she is a Customer Think Hall of Fame author. And by the way, she was recognized as the #1 Customer Think author in 2023. Lynn also, today, she's going to share her wealth of experience and knowledge on how aligning customer expectations can directly drive profitability. And I'm actually been a witness of this strategies that Lynn is going to share. I've had it firsthand in one of the organizations that I worked a while ago, where we had a session with Lynn, you know, talking about how to align customer strategy from the top down. And those insights that Lynn shared, the sessions we had with Lynn had were quite pivotal, right, to the growth of the organization and where the organization is today in their customer experience journey. Ladies and gentlemen, let you know that in today's session, Lynn is going to focus on talking about customer expectations and profitability. She's going to also let you know how to prevent profit potholes in your strategy and also in your organization. By the way, she's also going to let you know the strategies you need to use for market leadership. And at the end of the day, you will leave the session having insight, practical ways to implement customer-centric metrics that drive growth across your organization. I'll encourage you to engage all through the session, take notes, and think about how these insights that's going to be shared today can apply, and you can apply them in your own business. And don't forget, we're going to have question and answer session later on. So feel free to drop your question and answers in the course of your questions in the course of the webinar. And by the way, we also have a special package after Lynn's presentation. I'll keep that until she's done with her presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, you're welcome to this session. And over to you, Lynn. Lynn, how are you today and how has it been? And how do you feel being, having this first webinar with Growth Age series?
Well, it's certainly a privilege to be the first in the series, and I'm really excited to share this information with so many more executives across the world. There's a lot of innovations in customer experience that you might not have heard of, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. In addition to the state of business and the challenges that we face as executives.
Awesome, awesome, Lynn. Lynn, just to go back, I think about 2 or 3 years ago where we had to have some strategic engagement, and how you had to engage the entire board and executive of one of the top financial institutions in Nigeria, as a matter of fact. And I know that after that session, it was a customer experience immersion program for leadership and the executives, and that really impacted the customer experience journey, the strategy that was developed, and letting it, it was being driven from the top down. I would say, what has been your experience with other organizations? Because I am a testament to that. I can testify to that. But however, it will also be good to know what has that been before you delved right into your presentation today.
Sure. Yeah. When the executives are asking for customer-centric decisions and insisting on that as the path to investor well-being, then you find that there's a lot more harmony across the organization in being on the same page with what the priorities are, and it really makes a huge difference in performance, productivity, and financial results. That's what I've seen.
Awesome, awesome. All right, Lynn, over to you. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up and let's have a ride with Lynn Hunsaker this afternoon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ubang. It's so great to talk about customer as the catalyst for profitability and market leadership. And let's just take a look at where this all starts with. What I've noticed is that top executives are certainly really managing investor expectations. So every quarter, we have to report to the investment community, and the media reports whether we've met expectations or missed expectations. And so the senior leadership team is already quite skilled at proactive expectations management among the investment community, and also very skilled at meeting those numbers every period that's needed. So what I'd like to do is take that analogy and carry it over to what actually drives investor expectations. You have the stock price that investors buy into, and then whether they're going to continue to fund you depends on whether your financial performance has met their expectations. So let's take a look at what's going on in business today. We're seeing quite a lot of inflation since 2020, quite a pivot point back in the pandemic time. And I think there's more to it than just the money and the uncertainty. So much pressure with supply chain uncertainty, the talent pool, return to work. There's been so many things to grapple with that we didn't have in the 2010s. But what's interesting here is that inflation seems to be going down recently, but the wages are going up. Still, though, we have 20.8% higher prices now than we did in 2020, meaning that anything that we bought in 2020 for $1,000 is now $1,208. And there are quite a lot of your customers who may not be in the wage earners here with the red line. Quite a lot of your customers may be in the gig economy or retired or on some kind of fixed income or uncertain income. So it's not all hunky-dory in terms of what we're seeing here and what you might be experiencing in your own firm with the discrepancy between higher prices and affordability. So we're seeing now a lot of advertisements by politicians saying that big companies are gouging the consumers, and that there's going to be regulation to force reduction of prices. So I'm wondering how that's going to play out with all of us, our various industries, because I know that in many cases, prices have increased just out of necessity. And part of that is, the rising cost of wages. But there are some industries or players in industries who have raised their prices just because they can, or just because everyone else is doing it, which is further contributing to the inflation. So the consequence of all of that is that people are deciding where they're going to go with their investments, with their work choices, buying based on values and shared value and value increase. And we're seeing that quite a lot of people, this is based on the Edelman Trust Barometer in 2021. I followed every January when they publish it, and these figures are staying the same or actually increasing in terms of preference based on values, shared value, and value increase. So, of course, we're pursuing that with investors earnestly. We definitely want to see that the value is increasing there. And of course, with employees, we have to have some kind of balance with value increase, because otherwise, the work can't get done. We have to hold on to those employees. So where we're seeing that play out with the consequences is customers are often getting the brunt of it with shrinkflation and skimpflation, meaning you may be paying the same price, but a smaller volume, that's shrinkflation. Or maybe you're getting lower quality service or ingredients, and that's skimpflation. And the consequence of that is that we're actually kind of sticking a dagger in the stomach of the hand that feeds us, because it's the customer's money that causes the revenue, which then satisfies the investor. This is from Qualtrics report just this year, looking at how much decreased spending is happening after people have a poor experience, or a very poor experience, I guess is what this is. So they've either decreased spending or stopped spending altogether. Notice that all of these industries are consumer. And if the study was to include B2B and industrial industries, I think we'd probably find some similar patterns. But it is very concerning to see this decreased spending, because, after all, meeting investor expectations is about increased spending, not decreased spending. So with customers, it's really the same thing as with investors. They have bought into your value proposition. You promised get this and that if they came with your brand instead of another brand. And so they came with yours. And now they have certain expectations. As long as their realities, whatever they're experiencing, matches their expectations, it's a good experience, just like investors. And they'll keep on going with you because it's the path of least resistance. It's easier to stick with something than to keep going around. Sure, there's always a percentage of customers who are deal seekers or variety seekers, but the vast majority will stick with what's easiest, what they know, and what they feel is a hand-in-glove experience. So realities versus expectations can be a simplified way to define what is customer experience. If you have a one-to-one ratio between what the realities are from the other person's perspective, what really happened and what they perceived happened, how it made them feel, all of that is the realities. If you have a one-to-one relationship between that and what they're expected, then it's a good experience. If you're falling short of that, then there's a lot of costs. It's actually a spiraling of costs. Now, a lot of people are concerned about the word expectations because it seems loosey-goosey. It seems like, they might expect this one day and expect that the next day. But I've done studies where I've looked at a company that might have had 12 different personas, and analyze just what the customers were saying in their comments from whatever different sources. We just throw all the comments into a pot and look and see what bubbles up as the prevailing expectations across their entire journey. And what I figured is that there are 2 to 4 overall expectations per brand. And you can simplify this by focusing first on your core growth customers. Your core growth customers are the ones that you're depending on for greater spending this year. And so you might call those your ideal customer profile or your top market segment. So the core growth customers, I call them that because there's actually another dimension to it. And that is that you're not only looking at increased spending, but you're also looking at cost to serve and using that to identify the refined ideal customer profile. So looking at the cost to serve different customers depends on whether you're meeting these expectations or falling short. Because sometimes you're selling to customers who are actually not a good fit for you operationally. You can't meet their expectations, or there's some kind of chronic gap that is continuing to cost you. And what are these costs? Well, first of all, negative word of mouth. That happens no matter what. People need an outlet. They need to say something when something went wrong. And so there's that actually dilutes your marketing, because your marketing is saying all good things about your brand, but then you have against that negative word of mouth. And the consequence of that is that you have weaker sales velocity, higher customer acquisition costs, because you have to provide more proof points because of the doubt in the market. So it's actually in your salespeople's best interest to pay attention to the ideal customer profile with the intersection that I just mentioned, and also shaping realistic expectations. How informed is your marketing department of what actually happens in the rest of the journey, and how well are they representing that in their messaging, and your salespeople as well? So when you start off with identifying the overall expectations in these 2 to 4 themes, you have an additional blessing of making it simple for the rest of the company to get on board with that. So who is the rest of the company? Everyone. Procurement, legal, IT, HR, engineering, every single group, including your affiliates, your partners, your agencies and channel partners and so on. They should all be on the same page with these top themes. So say, for example, you have 2 top themes of empowerment and risk avoidance. So the beauty of those 2 themes for your core growth customers is that in every meeting, every day, every single group across your company can be asking themselves, oh, well, are these decisions that we're making in this meeting going to help or hurt empowerment and risk reduction, risk avoidance? And as you live that internally, it actually shines through externally. And you become much more magnetically attractive to new customers, existing customers, to new employees and existing employees, and new investors and existing investors. So that's one of the keys to it all. Let's look at what's really happening out there in the market. This is from the Edelman Trust Barometer, where they're asking a question of how much do you trust businesses to do the right thing? And it's a scale of 1 to 9. And they've been pretty generous with what they're defining as trustworthy or trustable, because they said, look, from 5 to 9, that's trust. From or 6 to, is it 5 to 9? And then 1 to 4, that's distrust. So here you can see that government, business, and journalists all pretty much similar in the amount of trust. And when you flip that around, it's showing that 39% of people think that you are not trying to mislead them, but 61% think that business leaders are purposely trying to mislead the public. So that's an interesting thing. Of course, it might differ brand by brand and country by country, but by and large, what I've seen is that it doesn't differ all that much. And even though you're getting good scores on likely to recommend, for example, it's on the back of this. This is the foundation. And so whether they actually recommend has a multiplying effect by the foundation of distrust, meaning that you can't just take your recommend numbers as absolutes, because at the basis of it, underlying, a lot of those people aren't fully trusting your brand. So that is a very interesting trend that we're seeing. In fact, it's been pretty static for a long time. If you look across the different types of companies, there's not much difference. You could say that 33% of people do not trust family-owned companies. 48% do not trust government-owned. So it's kind of half and half. And in fact, these numbers have not changed. Going back the past 10 years, it's pretty static. And we notice this across all the different countries. This is 2024. In this year, the study was about innovations and whether we trust that new products that are coming out are really well managed or do what they say they're going to do. And you can see that the majority of people think that it's not, because that's the black bars here. And there's a small percentage, around 20% across all the different countries, that think that it is. So again, about 50-50 on trusting and confidence in companies. Now, this is the this is another way of looking at it across the different countries, what's been changing. This is 2022, and in fact, we already seeing this before the pandemic, 2017. So we were already having a problem with all this trust dynamic before the pandemic, and it's not getting any better. In fact, it's getting worse. So that's the concern. Now, what's part of this is executives are grappling with rising costs due to the small percentage of employees who are thriving at work. There's 59% of people who are not engaged, and we call that quiet quitting. And 18% are actively disengaged, which means they are resentful, and throughout their day, they may be sabotaging the work of the people who are thriving. So that's part of the reason why we have this inflation, and part of the reason why we have distrust, because workforce is not totally plugged in. How are they helping or hurting those themes that customers are driving at? We're relying and maybe over-relying on the frontline people and the touch points and automation to make up for it, when in fact, that may not actually be contributing to trust. And also, the core problem is still there. So what is this costing us? Interestingly, it's $8.8 trillion per year globally. You can see the GDP, or gross domestic product, across each country, and quiet quitting is the equivalent of Germany and Japan combined total output, or the equivalent of these countries' total output, right? So that's what quiet quitting is costing us, both groups of customers, and this is from a study by Gallup in May of 2024. When you look at it by country, it's very eye-opening. Almost all the countries have around 20 to 25% quiet quitting. And when you look at it across industries, also we have 23% engaged or motivated, which means that 76 or 77% are not very motivated. So I was really shocked to see all of this. But the good thing is they also studying that certain brands have made a definitive effort to close these gaps, to reduce the quiet quitting, and to make a greater alignment between what investors are looking for, what customers are looking for, and what employees are looking for. One of the most pivotal books that I read on that is Firms of Endearment, where they did a study of which brands are most loved. And then when they looked at what are the practices of those brands, they found that they were aligning the needs of investors, customers, and employees, and not necessarily one superseding the other, but finding the balance across them. And that was that's a book that I definitely recommend reading. They then took the stock performance of those most loved brands and compared it to the S&P 500, and they found that it was like a 7x performance factor. Here we can see that there are brands who are engaging their employees consistently. And the study I like the most for that is 2023 OC Tanner. OC Tanner is the awards company based in, I think, Salt Lake City. And they've done a wonderful study of what's driving greater financial performance with employees in alignment with customers. And the bottom line of that is they're calling it nimbly resilient strategy. What is your nimble resilience strategy? I call it customer alignment strategy, and we're going to talk about what that is in just a moment. Just another couple of points about what's happening in the market. This study on the state of customer experience maturity is done by Qualtrics XM Institute. And this study goes back about 15 years, actually, before before this was actually part of Qualtrics, but the study has been consistent. And every year we're seeing pretty much the same percentages. In fact, a couple of years back, it was 6% embed. This means that we're embedding customer insights into the way the business is run. So, for example, strategies starting with customer insights. All department strategies is the aim for that. Your policies, your processes, your handoffs, and so on, your rewards, your reviews, are they using customer insights at the outset and consistently? For example, in your succession plan, you might require that in order to be advanced to the next level in your job, you have to demonstrate what you've done to make a difference for your customers, internal or external. That would be an example of embedding customer experience into the way you're running your business. Perhaps in the beginning of every meeting, you start your meeting with a customer story like Amazon does. In manufacturing, they start every meeting with safety because they want safety to be top of mind. So we want customers to be top of mind. How well are we using that? Scaling, I call the alignment part, or it's where you're essentially sharing customer insights with every group and with every endeavor. For example, somebody's developing a new product or developing a business model or developing a new market expansion. Are they using customer insights at the outset of that and then frequently as they develop it? That's called agile, right? It's not new. We've known about agile software design for about 20 years or so. And the whole idea was to prevent defects, not just get stuff out the door quickly and then hire a gazillion customer success people to manage that. So here's the idea. You need to be thinking about who is creating value. Everyone's creating value. The non-customer facing groups are the main ones who create it or limit it. The marketing and sales communicates the value. Operations, service, delivery, and partners fulfill value. And service recover rescues value. Your customers fund all of the above, including investors. Customers fund your investors, and investors reinforce that funding. That is the horse before the cart. When you're thinking about investors first, that's the cart before the horse. So whenever you have a gap between the expectations and realities that you're not achieving that one-to-one ratio, you're seeing a lot of costs for remedies, complaints, incentives, escalations, returns, refunds, churn, all of the extra sales and marketing you have to do to make up for all that, right? Whenever you do have that one-to-one ratio, you have brand integrity. And that means that what you said is actually what's happening in the market. They bought into your value proposition, and did they actually get it without any troubles? So in a perfect world, we would have that. But in an imperfect world, we should be striving for it. And if we aren't aiming for it, we'll never get there. So be thinking about, do you have just daily ROI with your touchpoint management? You have ongoing ROI with perhaps subscriptions and contracts and market stickiness, customer stickiness, or do you have automatic ROI through customer-aligned business? Customer-aligned business is the job of your customer experience leader. You may have a chief customer officer or customer success leader that is driving revenue, but that's not really the CX leader. The CX leader is the glue that pulls together all the value contributors that we saw around that circle. So we have the engagement groups that are driving daily ROI. You have all of the non-customer facing groups who are doing their thing. Are they in tune? Are they in tandem? Are they in sync with customers' overall expectations? Remember those 2 to 4 expectations of your core growth customers? The customer experience leader drives that. And when they're driving that, they're leading. It's CX leadership, not just CX management. Okay. Be thinking about the outer loop in addition to the inner loop. People are thinking about CX in terms of we need to follow up with customers who had a problem. That's problematic for you financially because it's always a certain percentage of people who contact you. There's other people who have the issue, they didn't contact you. They didn't participate in the survey. So if that's your whole strategy for customer experience, it's just damage control. You need to be creating what I call customer experience annuities. And customer experience annuities is like the annuities model for financial. You invest in something and then it keeps on giving, right? Year after year, you keep on growing that. So how you do that, you have to pay attention to customers' moments of truth in terms of what are your key drivers? What are the points where they're likely to engage or disengage, and then find the key drivers statistically. Do the Pareto analysis to identify the vital few. Among the vital few, what's the real root cause? So you have a small workshop where people of diverse viewpoints identify what the real root cause is, and you create an action plan for the 5th why, and make that the part of your bonus, the key part of your bonuses, your recognition, and how you run your business. You need to be rallying on that 5th why as a predictive indicator, because none of those other metrics that people are looking at, like survey ratings, survey scores, engagement rates, all of that's lagging indicators. A lagging indicator is something that already happened before you can measure it. A leading indicator is something you can measure before it happened for customers, before it happened for your stakeholder. So you can be tracking leading indicators for internal customer satisfaction and external customer satisfaction. And those are the 5th whys. When you do that, you're using customer insights for performance, for strategies, for efficiencies, and for growth. These are the 4 key roles that your CX leader should be focusing on, because this will amplify every growth metric that you're aiming for. It will amplify everything that you're aiming for in customer engagement and employee engagement. And here's how it works. I'll go quickly. When you have customer experience inspired performance, strategies, and efficiencies, you get right the first time more consistently. So things going out in the market don't have issues. You're also stopping prevalent issues. You may have had a chronic issue happening last month, last year, 5 years ago. It's just there's no end in sight. It's always been happening. Why don't we get to the root of it, just like I mentioned with the CX annuities? So when you get to the root of that, then you have freed up resources, freed up customers, lower risks, and less stress. And what does that lead to? More positive word of mouth, less negative word of mouth. It leads to lower customer acquisition costs and higher sales velocity. And then that leads to longer tenure, recurring revenue, and customer retention, and the growth that you're seeking from promoters and all customers. So this is how, when you have your CX leader focusing on these 4 pivotal focus factors, using customer insights to guide these things happening in your company, you have automatic growth. So be thinking about your customer experience strategy in this way. Everything starts with voice of customer, voice of employee, voice of partner, the same thing, that's VOX. This drives customer centricity in how you're managing the business, meaning that everyone is able to focus on customers because you have identified the top 2 themes of your core growth customers, empowerment and risk reduction in this example. You're using that as the basis for your strategy, not just corporate, but everybody. So you need to be using data patterns. Data patterns are when something's happening, it causes this to happen 3 times more. That's what we mean by experience intelligence. Tie it to how much that's costing you. And that's how you get the hearts and minds of people for absorption and adoption. So you have it asking customers and absorbing and adopting, and then you have applying. You need to have workshops where people are actually looking at how do they use the outer loop, and make that outer loop your basis of your bonuses. That's going to really pivot things for 2025. And then you have the applauding and accountability. That's internal engagement. Internal engagement should be a mirror image of your external engagement, because customers already paid fair market value for what they got from you. They don't owe you to participate in your survey or to do one extra thing. You need to earn it. And how you earn it is by going through these steps where you're continually increasing value to them instead of shrinkflation, skimpflation, inflation, and various moves that decrease trust. When you go through this as your flowing sequence of management of customer experience, you automatically generate increased retention, loyalty, and business results that you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for, with a ton of people in support and service and success and sales and marketing. You have this more organically growing because you're managing things systematically. So I'm going to just go very quickly here, but we found that managers at every level were dissatisfied with things, but yet the people who love their work had what they call good stress. There's good stress, and then there's bad stress, distress or eustress. I think they call the good stress eustress, and this is distress. And this ties into what the manager should be doing. When you look and see what people used to say, this is the old way of managing. This is the new way. We need to make the customer themes the purpose of every job. For example, empowerment and risk reduction, those 2 themes that I gave out, because 70% of the employee experience is based on their purpose. And if it's not tied to what you're trying to do with customers, then it's not tied to what you're trying to do with investors. It's pretty simple. And there's a lot of ways I have that are pretty affordable and quick and actionable to do that. What we're aiming for is to use expectations as a basis for how we're running everything. When you figure that out, for example, empowerment and risk aversion is the top concerns of your customers, then you need to make that exciting to people by showing how much those people are worth. How much are their actions worth in terms of your costs being reduced? How much are their actions worth in terms of your value increasing? And you do that with your employees too. What are their expectations? And we look at what are their value, and make that the North Star for how you're running all your operations. And when you're asking customers, how do you like things? Don't be asking them to judge you. Find out more. What are your expectations? How well are we helping you meet your empowerment goals? How well are we helping you meet your risk reduction goals? Ask questions like that are about them. That'll increase trust and engage everybody in innovation, governance, and community around those expectations. So it starts with that, and it just goes around to reinforce in how you're running the business. Finally, I just have one last thing to show you, and that is the idea of a team. Your company is a team, like a baseball team or a soccer team, football team. The C-suite, you have strategic planning, you have HR, and so on. You have your operations as perhaps the pitcher, they're throwing the ball, and then you have your sales team and so on. So when you look at all the different players in your company, they all need to be keeping their eye on the ball. There's never a sports team, whether it's professional or children, if they're not keeping the eye on the ball, you can't stand to watch it. Anyone who's not keeping their eye on the ball, they're out of there. You bring in a different player, right? So we need to keep people's eye on the ball with customer expectations, and then everything will play out better. What you'll find you can do is reverse costs of poor experience into budget expansions, and that excites people because it's personal. They have more budget to spend in their department to do all the things they've been wanting to do, more hiring, more salary increases, more profit sharing. That's converting costs to budget expansion. And when you focus on those 4 gold focus areas for the CX leader, the converting costs will really mushroom. Emboldening expansions, this is where you're using customer insights to drive all of your growth efforts. They'll be in the market more lucrative as first to market, more successful because they meet customers' expectations and generating more revenue and less costs. And you straighten strategies by using customer insights in guiding everybody's daily decisions and their strategic planning. So I'm going to leave that with you, Ubang, to carry forward. Anyone who would like to contact me, there's the contact information at the end, I believe.
Thank you so much, Lynn. And that has been a profound session. You've shared a whole lot of things. And please, if you're just joining us, this is the Growth Edge series. This is our very first American webinar, and we are happy to have Lynn. And Lynn has so much expounded and taken us through what we need to do as leaders in ensuring that we leverage on our customer expectations to drive profitability and market dominance in our respective business sectors. I know we are able to take 1 or 2 questions, so please, if you have any question to ask, you can use the Q&A button right on your screen to just send us a question. But Lynn, I just wanted to, while we're looking forward to some questions from the audience, you've talked so much about leading and lagging indicators, and then you've also talked about leveraging on data to drive service improvement. Today, a lot of organizations are doing surveys. Everybody does surveys, spending money to do surveys here and there. And then can you just throw more light on the leading and lagging indicators? A lot of people just measure CSAT and NPS and all that stuff. They've even used it as part of their KPIs appraisals. But we are seeing little impact, right, in their business growth. We're seeing little impact. So for instance, why I'm asking this is because I've been a part where we had to use data to drive service improvement, use data to drive decision making, and we also needed to know for instance, what I call the customer health. Using data to identify that. So can you throw more light? And also today, a lot of people are talking about AI. How can we also, I'm asking a lot of things in intertwined in one question. I know you're able to, understand what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah. So when you're relying on surveys to manage people's performance, that's problematic because first of all, people pretty much know whether they're hitting the mark already. You can tell by the customer's tone of voice, by their the words they're choosing. So either you can be tracking whether customers are happy on a service call, for example, by using technology. What is the sentiment analysis of that call? You're recording it, for heaven's sakes, right? Or the person who is on the call can be keeping a tally. Did I do this right, or did I do that right? So how you do it, you want to figure out what are the success factors of a good call or a good interaction with customers, whatever it may be. And then you want to drill down with the 5 whys. What is the behavior that leads to? So you want to be tracking what is your behavior that leads to a good interaction with customers instead of just doing a survey at the end of an interaction. So people are being over surveyed, and you're over relying on surveys when you already know this information. Especially we should be using technology for it. So we're not really modern in that. It's pretty old fashioned. Right? We could do this 15 years ago already. We should be keeping up with the new technologies and new thinking that does things smarter. When you're asking people questions in a survey, you should be asking things that you don't already know, right? And in fact, if you're asking about the interaction, you may be overdoing it because customer might actually prefer talking about the issue, right? They're irritated about an issue. They called you about it. Why don't you ask about that? Oh, well, we don't control that. Guess what? The rest of the company needs to know. They don't know that they're not performing because you're not telling them. And so you want to complain that the rest of the company isn't engaged or supporting the touch point management. It's your own fault by not creating that information in interesting ways that shows the trends and who's causing those and how much it's costing and what the annuities could be.
Awesome. Awesome, Lynn. Thanks. Also, there is a poll going on right now. We're just asking what if you want to measure what are your biggest challenge in aligning your business with customer expectations. So we would love to know what your thoughts are. So there's a poll running right now, and I can see a lot of people are actually talking about implementing actionable CX strategies. Now that brings me to the next question, Lynn. Today a lot of business leaders, all right, are actually concerned. Some of them are wondering what is the difference between customer service now and what is the difference and customer experience. Now, how do you position customer experience today to ensure that it is that functional department, that strategic department that is actually driving what is going on in the organization? So how would, if you were to help leaders today define it and to position customer experience management, what would you advise them?
So I'm glad you asked that. I meant to say it earlier. So think back to the 1980s and 1990s. In that time, we didn't really have a customer success group. We had customer service support, but we did have actually customer experience teams going back all the way to 1987 here in the United States. The reason why Japan was very competitive in taking over the steel industry, the automotive industry, consumer electrics industry, semiconductor industry, and so on. And so the U.S. Congress set up what they call the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award in 1987, which had customer-focused processes, customer-focused measurements, customer-focused management leadership. And those were, significant portion of the scores for getting that award. So what we were doing at that time was redirecting the way we're managing business to incorporate customer expectations. So this coincided with the total quality management and ISO 9000. So you're trying to look at what are customers expecting and build that into your products and your processes. Then we had Agile come as a concept in the late 90s, early aughts. And Agile meant you're using customer insights at the outset and throughout. So who is using the customer insights? Only the touchpoint people? No, everyone, right? Everyone should be using customer insights to how they're running their job. So how we did this in those times was you have different groups who are creating what the customer bought, so they're engineers and manufacturing and so on, and then others that are delivering it, which is your operational roles, not just service operations, but operations of the business, right? Delivering what the customer bought. So all of those roles are supposed to be using customer insights to be customer centric in how they do it. Now we're not driving that. We're too hung up with all of these pressures of return to work, uncertainty in the inflation, interest rates, and so on. And we're not driving that customer centricity. We're not doing our voice of the customer in a customer centric way to even understand what our customers' expectations and drive that. We're just trying to get ourselves a pat on the back. Yeah, I get my bonus because we got so many 9s and 10s because we told people to give us 9s and 10s. So it's all a farce. The customer success role is a great role in terms of pulling together all of those things to deliver what customers bought. But it's not really that different from what we had before, where there was a group of people who were delivering what customers bought. The big difference now is it's been given a shiny label. And in fact, it's been given some glorification that is not well deserved in terms of the company put products out there prematurely that required customer success to close the gaps. So the great percentage of customer success work is going back to product management and cajoling them to improve this feature so that we can get the renewal. Okay. So you might be thinking you're extra customer centric because you have a really big customer support group and you have a really big customer success group. But to me, those are red flags that you're not customer centric. The big role for customer experience teams is to drive customer centric thinking and doing for every single role in the entire company.
Yeah, and Lynn, there's something I read in one of your articles, that's talked about jobs to be done. So jobs to be done is actually identifying customer expectations, and we all know today that for every business, there's a service that you are rendering, and the customers have an expectation of how that service should be delivered to meet their needs. Now, for me as a customer and for all of us here, we know that whenever those expectations are not met, when our realities do not match our expectation, right, we are dissatisfied. However, when our realities exceed the expectations, that's when we are satisfied. Now, how do organizations, right, today, especially in the evolving market and customers' expectations, what customers wanted yesterday is different. And also today, customers are not comparing you with your competitor. They're comparing you with their last best experience. So for instance, I might be comparing my expectations with an airline with what I had with a bank. So how do we balance this, especially for leaders? And also, how do the leaders of these businesses and executives, what should they be expecting from their customer experience managers? And how should customer experience managers respond to this to ensure that they are actually showing the result to the management to enable the repositioning of customer experience in the right place in the organization?
So you need a balance between expectations VOC and realities VOC. If you're spending a certain amount of money and time and energy managing realities VOC, which is ratings, getting scores, you need to be spending a similar amount for getting the expectations. Really good advice that I got in the very first year I was voice of the customer manager, which was 1991, by the way. I was voice of the customer manager in a strategic planning department, which gives me a totally different perspective that you're hearing in this presentation. But the advice was, how often should we be doing a survey? The answer was, the question was, and the answer was, as often as change happens for customers and as often as you make change for customers. So when things are changing for customers, for example, the pandemic was a huge change. People had totally different ideas now about what they value and what their values are, what they're going to, put a line in the sand and say, we're not going past this. I'm not doing that. Back in 2019, that was not the case. Now we have a totally different idea. But did we adapt to that in how we're collecting insights from customers and employees? Are we asking them what are their values? How are we contributing to their values? How are we contributing to what they're trying to get done? So this is about the job to be done, that overall, what are they trying to do by working with your company as an employee, as a customer, as an investor, as a partner? We don't know. We haven't done that research. So you need to be having a balance there. You need to be having a balance between inner loop and outer loop. Get off the route race of putting all your energy on continual surveying, continue closing the loop, day by day, to just do surveys as often as there's a change, for heaven's sakes. You have touch point people, salespeople, service people, a lot of different things in your apps and your digital whatnot to monitor what's going on with customers. We don't need to do surveys as much. What we should be doing is focusing the organization on the root cause, right? Where the bonuses should be on what are you doing with the fifth why? And so that balance will change a tremendous amount. And all this journey mapping, there's really overkill on that because we're looking at micro moments. We're looking at tasks to be done. We're not looking at the job to be done. Big difference, right? So if you do a one-day workshop with a group to address their top two key drivers of customer experience, the top two chronic issues, for example, you don't even have to do a survey if you already know. These are the main things that are costing us a lot in returns or refunds or support or whatever, the combination. And just do it one day. You're already getting huge traction when you ask those people to give you their action plan progress every quarter and share that action plan progress in a collection to your senior leaders. This is what my team did in the 90s. We did it all manually. We didn't have the internet to help us at that time. We used zip drives and things like that in the FedEx to share information. But the thing is, you need to be having balance across these and looking at the overall aim to a greater extent, and then the micro stuff. You don't need a customer experience person for every touch point thing. Those are touch point managers using customer insights. You need a customer experience team that is facilitating all of the touch point managers and all the non-customer facing managers getting in sync with customers. That's what the customer experience team is. That's different from service or success.
All right, thank you, Lynn. The results for the poll is out, and it's quite interesting. So, and I want you to just run through this maybe in 1 minute. The question was, what's your biggest challenge in aligning your business with customers' expectation, right? 50% says measuring CX impact on revenue. 40% says implementing actionable CX strategies, and only 10% says understanding customer needs, and nobody said aligning department with customer goals. Is this how it should be? Should we be focusing
It should be the opposite.
Absolutely.
It should be completely opposite.
All right. So can you just briefly run us through what should be the right approach, especially because business leaders needs to understand this. That's the only way we are able to gain the benefit of customer experience management and understanding our customers' expectations, which is what we are actually talking about today.
So we're like a hamster in the hamster wheel. We need to get off the doggone hamster wheel, right? So we need to redirect executives' attention to let the sales and marketing people do the freaking sales and marketing job. Are they not doing it well enough? Let's use customer insights to help them identify better the ideal customer and to manage expectations better at the outset. Okay? So this is what we need to direct for customer experience instead of trying to drive customer experience, proving revenue or proving quick wins. You're not going to get it because you're focusing on the wrong things. When you focus on using customer insights, like I mentioned, the gold metrics, you're going to see a snowballing of results. And it's going to be quite easy to show your value. You need to identify first who are your core growth customers. Focus on perfecting the experience for them. Because when you help the whole organization make a perfect experience for your core growth customers, there will be that what they call a waterfall effect to all the other customers. So you're not leaving them high and dry, but you need to focus on what's manageable and what's going to show a big dent, and that's your core growth customers' ultimate outcomes, their jobs to be done, not just their tasks to be done. Get to the root of the issues that are bothering them, because that's where you're going to cut the costs. As you cut the costs, taking the pebbles out of their shoes, Your brand is going to be more magnetically attractive. And you can do this, you can get 9,700% ROI in a modest example that I have a blog about within a few months. So you may see even huge gains within a month or two if you follow my recipe. So I welcome you to talk
Awesome.
to me afterwards.
All right. Yeah, yeah. If you need to know more about what Lynn has just talked about, please feel free to stop by her website, www.clearaction.com. You will see loads of resources, loads of training. I mean that you need to take short trainings that will actually help you to understand this. Lynn, before we wrap up, ladies and gentlemen, we are on time, right on time now, but we just want to plead your indulgence for an extra 5 minutes. Some people had technical issues joining the session. Sincere apologies. We just discovered there's a lot of hitches around that. We really, I mean, apologize for this. However, we are going to share you the access to this conversation right from the beginning. We'll share the link, send the link to everyone that had registered. Please, we are sincerely sorry and apologize for the challenges you had faced running the meeting. And we're just going to launch the last poll. We are talking about customer experience management today. I want to ask you, where do you think you are in your customer experience stage as an organization? So just help us, just let us know. We want to find out to know where you were in your customer experience journey. Are you on the initiate, mobilize, operationalize, align, and embed stage? You don't really need to, think too much. Just what do you think is your current, stage? And while we are doing that, there's something that we have developed in the last few months. We believe that what you don't measure, you don't improve. For instance, like what Lynn is talking about, that we should focus on the data. Let it be data-driven decision. Let it be data-driven activities, and we should also focus on our core customers, driving the experiences for our core customers. There's a lot that has been said today. Now, just to wrap this up, while we are, going ahead with the polls, I just want to quickly just share something that has been developed in terms of understanding where you were in your customer experience journey. It's actually a tool that we have developed, and we want you to feel free to actually use this tool at any point in time. I'm sharing my screen right now. The website is www.feedbackworks. Feedbackworks. The works is with X, not care, .com. And we've developed an assessment because, like I said, what you don't measure, you don't improve. And it's needful for you to know this. So, for instance, in one of the organizations that I worked a while ago, when we joined, and the CX maturity level of the organization that was over 60 years old was under 2. That's it's between stage 1 and stage 2. But when we did the analysis, when we did the assessment, we discovered the areas we needed to work on, and that helped us in developing the strategy. And in less than 2 years, I tell you the truth, we were able to know where to drive, how to drive the improvements, and how to get the management buy-in. And today, I'm happy to say that organization, even across the subsidiaries, CX is in the forefront. CX sits in the board. As a matter of fact, so CX sits in the board. That's where it should be. So we'll we'll encourage you to take the assessment. You can take the assessment as an organization. You can also take the assessment as a CX practitioner, as a CX leader or the CX manager. So there are two of them here. Now, if you're taking the assessment for the organization, this is how it goes. You click on it and you start the assessment. And there are a lot of questions here. The questions are very strategic. The questions are very intentional to actually generate for you to understand exactly what is happening in your customer experience strategy and journey. For instance, this one you could say our customers research tells us blah 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 blah. Just select what you think and based on what you know. Don't try to feel good about it. Just pick the right thing. And for instance, if you go through all this, and this is what the result is going to look like. So for instance, I did a sample. As you can see, this particular company is on stage operationalized. So I don't know if you have selected based on the ongoing poll. You can see where they are operationalized, and then it shows their cost strength. So on each of the left stages, it shows you whether you are at the beginner or the basic or intermediate, proficient, advanced, or world-class level. So it's a two-in-one kind of model. It tells you where you are in the strategy, aspect of it, and it also tells you in terms of the level, what do you need to do in each of those stages of CX maturity. I just said we should share this with you. We will send more information in our emails, following this webinar, but it's good for you to know. And after you've done this, we are open for you to reach out to us, right, to download the report and share with, your management and discuss with your team. You can, if you need more help in understanding how to navigate through the report, feel free to reach out to us through the consult button. So I just thought I should share that with you. And if also you are a CX manager, please feel free to take the assessment as a manager. It will help you to know the competency areas where you need to improve on and how you should do things. So this is for the CX practitioners. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I think let's view the results for the CX stages. Wow. Lane, from what I'm seeing here, a lot of people says we have 29% at the initiate stage. That means a lot of the people here are actually at the initiate stage of their customer experience journey. 29% also at the mobilize stage. Operationalize is 14, align is 14, embed is 14. We have a lot of work to be done. And like I would say, please feel free at any point in time to reach us. We'll be sharing content, direction, and how we're going to do. Once again, I want to say, Lynn, thank you so much. You've shared your wealth of knowledge, and it's been quite interesting. Thank you for the valuable insight you've shared with us today. It has really been, a customer to understand that customer expectations are at the core of building a profitable and market-leading business. Now, to all our attendees, we are very grateful. Thank you for joining us on this webinar. And once again, sincere apologies for the hiccups and the challenges you faced in joining. Like I said, we will be sharing with you, highlights of the session and also the link for you to watch and listen to the entire webinar from the beginning. I hope you are walking away with practical strategies you can start applying immediately. And whether it's aligning more closely with your customers or implementing new ways to streamline your service delivery, the key takeaway here today is put your customer first. Identify who your core customers are and look forward to ensuring that you deliver the experience that they're expecting, and success will follow. At Growth Age, right, we believe that the future belongs to those who innovate, lead with vision, and stay in tune with their customers. I encourage you to continue the conversation. You can follow Growth Age series on LinkedIn, and most importantly, put this insight that we've heard today right into action. Once again, thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at the future Growth Age series events. Have a great day, and here is to driving innovation, leadership, and sustainable growth in our organization. Thank you once again, everyone. Thank you, Lynn, and do have a great day.